First, I want to say hello to our audience listening here. We are live at the CAW convention in beautiful Rancho Mirage, Winter CAW, California Applicant Attorneys Association. I am Dan Mora. I am not an attorney.
Your disclaimer?
Just make that clear. That's my disclaimer. Yeah. I am CEO, owner of Gemini Legal. We're a legal discovery company. And I'm really excited to do this as a special guest, Honorable John Hernandez. So, John, can you quickly introduce yourself? Actually, you can make it as long as you want.
No, I'll keep it short. My name is John Hernandez. I'm based out of Southern California, the Covina area. I also have an office in Santa Cruz. I'm an applicants attorney, but before being an applicants attorney, I was a workers' compensation judge, where I adjudicated at the Los Angeles District Office, and before that I was a defense attorney, and I had a partnership in a small defense firm. So I've been around the block, and here I am today with Dan. Thank you for having me. I'm also the president of an organization called Latino Comp, and I also am a member of the executive committee of the California Lawyers Association Workers' Compensation Section.
Awesome. Yeah, so tell me, I think you're kind of an anomaly that you go from a judge and then you go back into practice. I don't see that terribly often, but tell me about, your journey as a professional, and how did you become a judge, and what was your desire for that? And, you're obviously a leader in this industry, and tell me about a little bit about that.
Well, it all started in the early 90s when I was an undergrad student at UC Santa Cruz. And I started working for an applicants attorney named Bob Taryn, who's here on somewhere. You'll probably see me. So Bob's been around for a long time, and he really took a liking to me for some reason, and really mentored me in what was the practice of workers' compensation law. After law school, I honestly thought I would never do workers' comp again. I joined the Santa Cruz County Public Defender's Office. Eventually, I moved back to Southern California. Things fell into place. And I ended up representing an attorney in some things who had a brother who was a partner in a defense firm. And they hired me. I needed health insurance. It was around that time. And that's how I started my real full-time career as an attorney doing workers' comp defense. Gotcha. From there, I moved to another firm where I was a managing attorney. From there, I joined forces with one of my good friends, Edward De La Loza, who was a defense attorney out of the Whittier area. And then after talking with a lot of people, I took the bench in 2012. It was something that I really wanted to do, was excited about. And I did that up until almost 2017, when I stepped down from state service to open up my own practice doing workers' comp applicants work.
Great, yeah. What a career, and thank you for your service. And I'm curious, where does that fire come from? We all are fighters in this industry. Where does that fire come from?
I think a lot of it comes from my, it's the immigrant story. I was born in Honduras. I came to the United States very young. My parents and my family immigrated to New Jersey originally. My parents picked New Jersey because they looked at a map and it said it was the Garden State. So we ended up there. And after about 12 brutal winters, we decided that warmer climate was better for us. But, I grew up in a household with a very strong work ethic and immigrant family. I saw my father deported twice.
Oh my gosh.
And so luckily, my sister who works with me now was the epitome of the anchor baby, and allowed my dad to come back. And they just stressed education. They stressed the importance of school, the importance of being a leader in the community, and it's something that's just always motivates me, because I know that I set an example, people like myself, people like my parents, for other immigrants, that there is such a thing as the American dream. There are opportunities, and the road that's paved is not all smooth. It can be cobblestone, but there's challenges and they can be overcome. And I do what I do because I want to not only motivate, for example, my children, but my work with youth in the community, to especially the immigrant kids, to show them, hey, you have potential. Despite what anybody else says or tells you, or despite what you may think of yourself, there's opportunity. And I like working with individuals and groups, organizations that promote that, and that are a part of that vision.
Yeah, and we all doing it yourself is a misnomer, right? It takes a community, it takes a village, and you've been a firm promoter of that, obviously, in your career.
No, absolutely. It takes, a lot of the things that we do in the community, especially with low-income youth. We're dealing with immigrant communities, we're dealing with monolingual Spanish-speaking communities, and right, you fall right into workers' compensation. What is the majority of the workforce, at least in California? It's what we deal with on a constant basis. People work, unfortunately, people get hurt, and the pathways are not often recognized. And it takes a lot of education, a lot of different stakeholders in the process to come together and say, here we have this system which is supposed to be designed as a benefit delivery system. What are we doing to make sure that injured individuals, despite whatever their immigration status may be, that they're getting the benefits that they're entitled to? And working with people like Gemini, or working with our doctors, or working with our defense attorneys, or working with the insurance companies to promote that goal, to understand that we all have a part in this, is very important, because we all need each other, right? We're part of the system, and we're part of what makes things better. We can also be part of what makes things worse. But I think for the large part, all the stakeholders are trying to make this better for everyone.
Yeah. So what do you see are some of the issues that Latino Comp, for example, is trying to address and how are you addressing those issues?
Sure. So I'll start by my disclaimer that I am the president of Latino Comp. However, the opinions that I express here are my own. I don't have necessarily authorization to speak for the whole board, but I can tell you that Latino Comp, as a nonprofit organization, is dedicated to bringing together all the stakeholders in the workers' compensation community for the purpose of enhancing the quality of representation at the district offices.
Gotcha.
And so by doing so, we believe that if we enhance the quality of the representation, how do we do that? We do that by educating our members, putting on education forums, whether it's on medical issues or legal issues, things that directly impact and affect our community, by bringing together and bridging the gap between not only applicant attorneys and defense attorneys, but also with doctors, and also with our legal and litigation support teams, so that we all understand, you look at the practice of workers' compensation in California, and, honestly, I would think you talk to any civil litigator or criminal defense attorney, their mind is boggled with the concept of workers' compensation. They don't understand how to deal with the multitude of regulations that we deal with, the labor code. And the reality is, I believe that in this system, the workers' compensation judges and the workers' compensation community probably handles more money on a daily basis in the form of benefits to injured workers throughout the state than any other legal system could probably do. It's a lot. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of people to do that, and to do it well. And you can easily get lost in that system, and there can easily be a lot of finger pointing, who's doing what and who's not doing what. But I think an organization like Latino Comp, whose goal is to bring everybody together so that we can have the best and the brightest, we can have the support, the participation, and really give a voice to what's going on in the system, will ultimately benefit not only the stakeholders, but the most important stakeholder, the injured worker.
Yeah, and the access to, the complexity that you all have to manage, you understanding the doctor's realm, and the medical, or the doctors having to understand the legal realm. That seems pretty unique.
It is unique, because I tell my kids, I never went to medical school, but I play a doctor at work, and that can be very nerve-wracking for some people. I mean, here you are, you're an attorney, not one day in medical school, and albeit there's some lawyers out there who have actually had some medical school training, but for the most part we don't. We go in there and we try to challenge a doctor on their medicine, somebody who's board certified specialist in doing it, but it's never done in the form of, let me just tear you down because it's fun. It's done in, really, it's always an educational experience. We use the resources that we have, because even though we may not be educating doctors on medicine, because I would never pretend that I could educate a doctor on medicine, that transition, that little area that's the medicine, but how it's applied in the law, and the application of the law to substantial medical evidence issues, to apportionment issues, to Alvarez Guzman issues. Doctors need help and education on that. They're scientists. They are trained in a very traditional way. They approach patient care in traditional ways. And workers' comp, for the most part, it's one thing one day, and as you know, a new reg comes out next year, it's a different thing another way. So we have to readily adjust and be able to not only educate ourselves, not only explain things to our clients, not only educate doctors, but sometimes educate politicians. There's a lot of information that needs to move in a very quick amount of time. So it makes it, to me, very exciting. It's a very living embodiment of the law and how we practice it.
Yeah, very, very complex. I tell people coming in that you will not be bored.
No, you will not be bored. And one of my favorite things as a WCJ when I was in Los Angeles would see when we would have let's say somebody who you clearly knew was coming from civil litigation, and they were just looking around and not knowing, what is going on in this madhouse. The informality of the system sometimes draws people off guard because, this is an administrative agency, administrative rules. But if you think about it, workers' compensation is one of the few areas of law that you can become a certified specialist in. There's constant change. There are constant deadlines. You not only have to be able to manage the labor code, but understand the code of evidence, understand the code of civil procedure, how that impacts your practice. On top of that, understand the American Medical Association, the AMA guides, and ACOM, and everything that comes with that. There's a lot of information that needs to be managed, and oftentimes in very short periods of time.
Yeah. What a fun, complex, interesting, profession that we've all landed in. I'm hearing from folks that treatment is the biggest issue, just getting actually just access and then quality of treatment. And, we've gone through a few revolutions in the law on how doctors are supposed to be working in the system. What's your take on what we need to be doing different?
So, I think that's a great topic because we do have a lot of issues now, whether you call it medical treatment or trainees. The reality is there's a lack of doctors that even want to do workers' compensation. So when you have a high population of people, when you have, especially in great metropolitan areas like the Los Angeles metropolitan area or the Bay Area, and you have a very limited pool of doctors willing to treat patients in workers' compensation cases, then people experience delays. I mean, imagine yourself, you have a very serious injury, a very serious back injury, you're in pain, but the law says, listen, you can only go see a workers' compensation doctor, and the only doctor available won't see you for 4 to 6 weeks. That draws on emotionally on people, and so what we need to do is somehow work on, quite frankly, I think a lot of times when I speak to doctors, their issue is, look, this is a lot of work and we really don't get paid enough, even when you talk about it in terms of, most medical insurance rates and what the expectation is with the paperwork. So there has to be, we instituted this whole thing with requests for authorizations and things that need to be done. So in my opinion, those are things that really, if I'm a doctor and I'm deciding that I want to get into this area of law, you have to consider that because it takes a tremendous amount of staff just to manage the paperwork. And so it's not the most, perhaps when you look at cost effectiveness and in terms of a business, I think it's very difficult for the newer practitioners. I think most of our practitioners are older, getting ready to retire. There are some that are coming in. There's a learning curve. But even with qualified medical examiners, QMEs, I think it's the anecdotal story from many practitioners is we're going through 3rd, 4th, 5th panel requests because the doctors aren't able to set people within the statutory time of 60 days. Even when you waive the 60 days and you can go to 90 days, they're 5-6 months out. And so that just creates delay in the system and makes things basically bottleneck, and you're sitting there, trying to explain to this injured worker why their case is slowed down. And it frustrates not only the injured worker, it frustrates the applicant's attorney, it frustrates the defense bar and their client because the insurance companies, they want to move claims along just as quickly as we do. I think I really do believe that most everybody in the system wants injured workers to receive quality medical care, but getting the doctors involved and agreeing to do this has been a challenge. And I think that's one thing that we're trying to do with Latino Comp as well, is getting the doctors involved so we can educate them and we can see that there really is a need.
Yeah.
And you have places like Santa Cruz County, where at my other office, where it's almost impossible to get a treating doctor. I have a pulmonary case, and we're sending, the one QME was in San Francisco, and the other QME on the list was in Los Angeles. So there's plenty of well-qualified expert doctors in those fields. We're just not getting them to take these workers' compensation cases.
Yeah. So education is one piece of it. Is there anything that you see that is just a fatal flaw in the system right now?
I have a problem with the MPN, and I don't necessarily have a problem with the concept of the MPN, because I can understand from the perspective of the insurance carrier to manage a group of doctors, so it's not really a free-for-all. You have some standards and you have people with experience, but I think it's the process that if we're stuck as the injured worker going to this MPN, which is essentially insurance carrier approved medical doctors, I don't think that those opinions should be subject to utilization review, for example.
Gotcha.
I think if you get the benefit as the insurance carrier to say, listen, injured worker, you could only pick from this group of doctors, and if the injured worker does their part and picks from that group of doctors, then why are their opinions, recommendations for treatment, modalities of treatment be subject to a secondary review? I think if we were somehow able to eliminate that, I really think it would improve not only the delivery and the quality of the medical care being given, but I think things would progress and not bottleneck us more, and we could get the injured workers the treatment that they needed without these constant barriers preventing things from happening and going through the UR process and going through the IMR process. And that eventually, I think, would lead to people receiving quality of care, improving, becoming permanent and stationary, and allowing them to get back into the workforce as quickly as possible. Because I think there's no better feeling for most people, my clients, is the idea of getting back to work and being a contributing member of the economic cycle. I think there's a complete falsehood that people just want to sit back and collect a disability check.
Yeah.
People don't want that. People want to take care of their families. They want to pay their bills. They want to contribute. They want to work. It gives a sense of self-pride and self-confidence. But the process in itself is what's preventing them from doing that. So if you really want change, in my opinion, if you really want to see things move along, we get rid of UR and IMR for MPN medical treatment. Now, denied cases, those are all, that's a different ballpark, a different conversation, but I think that's one of the biggest problems, that if we could somehow address that, I think it would make substantial changes in the delivery of quality medical care and moving these cases along.
What do you think practitioners are maybe missing at this point that would help out their clients, their injured worker clients?
Well, I think from the perspective of an applicant's attorney, one of the things that, and drawing on my experience from having been a WCJ, is really taking the time to understand the guides, understand what the guides allow for and don't allow for. I mean, look, we're stuck with the edition that we're stuck with. And I get it that other states have moved on to other editions. We have not. So we have to live with what we have. And I think if practitioners took a little bit more time of really reading the medical reports, deposing doctors, again, not challenging them on their medicine necessarily, although that often can happen, but making sure that that they are doing what that they are supposed to do. And I think there's a little bit of an intimidation factor for many attorneys in deposing doctors. But you got to do it. You got to do it yourself. You got to get out there. You got to learn it. It can't be something you just pawn off on a deposition expert. Although sometimes it happens, and hey, I've done it because there's somebody who's really, in tune with the specific issue in a medical situation. But more and more, it has to be me as a practitioner. And the more I understand the medicine, the more I have contact with these doctors, I think ultimately the better return I have in making sure my client gets what they need.
Great. So how long has your firm been now established?
So I officially established my Applicants firm in August of 2016, with things starting January of 2017, because I was a WCJ up until the end of 2017.
Gotcha.
So really, I would say January 1, 2017 is the actual start.
Gotcha. So here's my question. You're a newish business owner, and all of us as business owners, we're trying to attract talent. And things are changing in business with technology. What do you think is the single, or what do you think it takes to attract good talent into workers' compensation? And your firm, do you have partners right now?
So I don't have any partners, and quite frankly, my firm is very family-based. I have my sister's my office manager, my nephew's one of my case managers, and so it's a different situation than most. But we do have to, and I've had to grow, and I've had to find people. I think. Honestly, one of the biggest things for purposes of an applicant's attorney is language. We really need bilingual staff. So for purposes of what I do. But you have to really also have people that are motivated to the vision of what we're doing and understand that what we do impacts so many lives. And there are going to be people who are going to be very emotional and upset, and rightly so. And you have to be able to deal with, those personalities and those low points in somebody's life, and be there to celebrate the high points of their life. But in any industry, I imagine, you have to find people who buy into the vision of what your organization is. If they don't buy, I always talk to my clients in terms of, is this a job or is this your career? And they get caught off guard when I ask them that, because they're used to looking at everything as a job. And I said, a job is something you'll leave because you're just there for the paycheck. A career is somewhere where you could see yourself being. And I think as a business owner, and what you do, Dan, and I think you do it very well, is the sense of camaraderie and community and family. I mean, your employees are your biggest cheerleaders, and that, I think, goes to show to the type of servant leadership that you exhibit. You're out there, you're doing the things, you're involved. You don't sit on your high tower telling everybody what to do. You're here on the ground with them and in the community, and showing them, hey, I'm working alongside you guys. I'm not here to be a taskmaster. So I think if people do that, they're gonna build the relationships, the loyalty, and want to promote that business. And I really think that's how businesses grow. I think if you deal with dissatisfied people who leave from business to business, I think a lot of times when you talk to them, you find that they just didn't feel like they were really contributing, or that they really had a voice. And again, going back to what we do with Latino Comp is always our goal, right? Give a voice to people. There's lots of ideas. It's very easy to have tunnel vision. It's very easy to be stubborn or prideful and not want to listen to ideas because they don't come from you. But if we can step aside from ourselves once in a while and really listen to what's out there and what we can do, I think that's the amazing part of the process.
And you know what? I have to commend Latino Comp and you for leading that. It's not unnoticed that you guys include all subject matter experts. This is a deep and wide industry. And I hear that passion is important, really, really important. It took me a minute to kind of get there. When I started, it was somewhat of a means to the end, and I love it now. I got the fight in my belly.
Well, hey, we all have to do something to put food on our table, take care of our families, and do so. But at that point, when you transition from this is a paycheck to this is a contribution now. A contribution. I'm somebody in this community that I care about. I care about this community. People call me a workers' comp nerd. I think I posted on Facebook the day I got my labor code. I was giddy, and I was like a little kid getting a Christmas present, and people were like, "Oh, you're such a nerd," and I'm like, you know what? But I love it. I love what I do. I love being involved in workers' compensation. I love the people I get to interact with. I love the opportunities that I have, and I really think that the people that I work with and that are willing to work with me and work with us in Latino Comp as an organization see what we're trying to do. And know that there's, I always tease people. I say, listen, if I'm a sponsor for an event, it's not like another applicant's attorney is going to have a client walk to their door and they're going to say, you know what, this is a great case, but I think this other attorney is better, so I'm going to refer you there. That's not what this is about, right? This is about building each other up, making sure that we're not ignored, that we're not sidetracked, that we're not just this thing, a monstrosity. Sometimes I think that the upper echelons of politics see workers' comp as a bottom line killer, or all those things that they think that they don't want to deal with, and realize that we're dealing with people. We're dealing with really real human lives, real tragedies, and that we're not going to be ignored, and especially when the workforce is largely a Latino workforce.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be ignored. We're here. We're going to make a difference however we make a difference in our community. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Okay, last fun question. What's your sport?
What's my sport?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love LAFC soccer. That's my main thing, And
so you heard Sacramento just got us.
I did, and
Major League team.
Yeah, we played you guys before they came in. We played last year. It's a fun team, so I'm I have season tickets and have a blast. It's my favorite sport. I'm a Chargers fan.
Okay.
So it was a tough year, but I'm very excited for the 49ers, the Niners, living in the Bay Area so long.
Yeah.
And then, I own golf clubs and I like to hit the balls, but, they don't like to go into the hole, so. But I enjoy that. So, no.
And you're a family man, right? I think you got a couple kids.
I got 3 kids, They're both in high school, 2 in high school, junior and a sophomore. And then I have a 9-year-old in the 3rd grade. So.
Well, you're a busy guy. I really thank you for coming by here. I hope more people follow your example of leadership. You're doing great things, John. I really appreciate you coming on, and just want to thank you.
No, and I appreciate you having me. Thank you for the opportunity. This was fun, and I'll just a small plug for anybody who's interested in Latino Comp or wants to know more. Just go on over to our website, latinocomp.org. And there's a lot of information there, and join us at some of our meetings.
Right on. Thank you, John.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.